all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Welcome to Veterans Radio. I am Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today. We've got some great programs for you. I think you'll find very interesting. We always want to remind you, you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or by going to veteransradio.net, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.net. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to nvbdc.org. We also want to thank Eisenhower Center. It's a brain injury recovery center. Learn more about eisenhowercenter.com. They're located in Michigan and in Florida. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. It's a little hard to believe that we find ourselves in the second week of January already in 2022, but hey, here we are. Let's hope it's a better year than last and that we can begin putting this COVID and all its variants a little bit behind us and get back to more normal life and gatherings. So we're glad you're going to settle in for an hour here and listen to Veterans Radio. We're going to bring you a story from Joseph Medina, Brigadier General Joseph Medina, retired from the United States Marine Corps, talking about things he learned on leadership from his father, from the academy, from his NCOs, and from civilian life. I think you'll find this an interesting discussion by a Hispanic general who came a long way and has served the country admirably. And then we're going to have kind of a cautionary tale. I had a chance to talk to Army veteran Troy Broussard from AARP regarding a survey they did about fraud and scams that are directed towards the military and to veterans. And he's got 3 or 4 ideas to protect yourself, and I hope you'll take those to heart. So sit back and enjoy. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio today Brigadier General Joseph Medina, U.S. Marine Corps retired. Brigadier General Medina, welcome to Veterans Radio again.
It's a pleasure to be here today with you and your listeners, Jim.
Well, we're going to talk with Joe today about leadership, but before we get into that, let me kind of set the table here. Joseph Medina graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy, and he later earned a Master's of Science in Systems Management from the University of Southern California. As a Marine, he's held command really at every level, from platoon, multiple company commands, battalion commander, and regimental commander of the 3rd Marines. He's really kind of done it all, including being the first Marine Corps general to lead a naval task force with operational control over ships. So he's been around the world. General Medina was in 2017 one of 4 Hispanics to hold the rank of Brigadier General and above in the Marine Corps. He is a member of the Hispanic Veterans Leadership Association today. After getting out of the Marine Corps, he went into the private sector where he led engineering service companies and field service projects in the Middle East, Asia, and the United States. Did that for about 10 years. He is a fellow of the American College of National Security Leaders. He has been identified as one of the top Hispanic icons that made a significant cultural impact. He's been focused and featured in Hispanic business magazines. And in 2020, a interesting year for all of us, he started Inner Voyage Leadership Group. So again, General Medina, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, I want to start with a discussion on the book that you wrote, Joe, which is Battlefield to Business, One Marine's Inner Voyage of Ethical Leadership. And maybe we just start with why the book?
There's a famous song by Sean Rowe. It's titled "To Leave Something Behind," and just a couple of the lines say, "Wisdom is lost in the trees. It's locked up from those who hurry ahead, and the ceiling is hard to reach. It's time to leave something behind." So that just basically gives my rationale. It's something to leave behind. I currently do a lot of talks, leadership presentations with the Inner Voyage Leadership Group, mainly pro bono talks with colleges and high schools, where I talk about leadership. So some of the lessons that I use, I wanted to put them in the book. So sometimes it's easier to talk from that and leave something with the students and the audiences behind. And if I didn't do that, it would be like leaving footprints in the snow. Come the next snow, they've disappeared.
Absolutely. I think it's a great reference, if you will. It's easy to read. You read these principles of leadership and you go, oh, yeah, that says it better than I could. I had it in my mind. But I also sort of, when I read this, Joe, I kind of felt this isn't just, 30 years of being in the military and 10 years of being in private sector. I sort of felt maybe there was a little twinge of things you learned from your father right on through your military career. Am I overreading that?
No, yeah. My father died when I was young, but he was a career soldier. He enlisted in the Army when he was not quite 16, lied about his age. It was the end of World War II. He was able to get in. And at the end of his first enlistment, he corrected the records for his right birthday. And he did 20 years, a little over 20 years, and retired. And then he spent several years in Vietnam as a civilian and had some injuries there that resulted in his death. So, yeah, there are a lot of lessons from early in life. Neither my father nor my mother were high school graduates. They were both farm workers. My father originally from Irvine, born on Irvine Ranch in California, now Irvine, California, and my mother from a farm family out in Georgia, Alabama area. So they instilled in me the desire for continuing education and to make something better. So yeah, you're right, and there's in the address a lot of the lessons I learned from our enlisted NCOs and staff NCOs, and that I think I got that ability to relate and learn from the enlisted community from my father as well.
Well, that is one part of the book that's really, I think, special, and that is talking about the NCOs. But I also sort of read and reading, chapter after chapter as it builds on itself, that it's not always, you don't always take the easy path. And again, that may have been something I was reading into your family situation, but also for a guy to go to the Naval Academy, for a Hispanic to go to the Naval Academy at the time you did. You didn't choose an easy path, nor did you choose an easy path to become a Marine, and that kind of comes through in your discussion of that inner voyage of leadership.
Yeah, I think you've captured that right, and that's why I named this leadership group the Inner Voyage, because each of us and ourselves, we have to make that voyage on which way we want to go. And each time there's a fork in the road or a decision to be made, you have to make the best decision possible, looking out for both your people and your mission. So that's a constant weight that you have to play, and I address that in the book as well, is that weight of, your people versus your mission.
Yeah, and in that idea that every fork in the road, you got to take a path. It's not always the easiest path, and that certainly kind of echoes throughout the book when you talk about ethics, and in chapter 6 in particular, you talk about maintaining your ethics even in adverse situations. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's always, we all make. Example is you've seen some emails we send. You're sometimes we're quick off sending an email when you get upset, and later on you regret saying, "Oh, I shouldn't have sent that." So we all get placed in adverse situations and react sometimes the wrong way. And I use a couple examples in there where there were bad, stressful situations where people reacted, and although the situation they were faced with, they were, their decisions were right. The actions they took because of their emotional reaction ended up making, them look as bad, and therefore they're giving up the moral high ground, so to speak. So that is, that's an important thing as we go through. We need to ask ourselves, what is the right decision to be made? When I was a major, I was a company commander for a summer at OCS, Officers Candidate School. And the CO was a Medal of Honor winner by the name of Wesley Fox. And a friend of mine had another company next to mine. And he would ask me, he said, "How come you can always read what Colonel Fox is going to do? You seem to be able to have a good read on him." And his name was Joe also. And I remember saying, "Joe, this is easy. I always, Colonel Fox always does what he thinks is the right thing to do." So I phrase my information that I'm presenting so that he's led up to the decision of what's the right thing to do, and whatever he thinks is the right thing to do, that's the decision he will make, even if it's a very hard decision. So, and that's one thing, although I don't use that example in the book, that's one thing I'm trying to get across is, yes, we have to do the ethically right thing.
Yeah, and even when the example you give in the book is sort of this emotional reaction, but when you react emotionally, you tend not to look through the lens that says, what are my core ethics? What's the right thing to do? You kind of skip those lenses because you're just reacting emotionally, and I think you're trying to advise the reader, slow down. Stick with your core ethics. This will all work out better.
Absolutely.
But one of those things you just mentioned is how you put information together for the leadership to help them make the right decision, and that brings up another interesting chapter 2, about determining critical information and what's not known. I think a lot of people bump into this thinking they have all the facts. Tell us what you were thinking about and what you've learned and what you're trying to pass on this business axiom.
Yeah, as you would expect, I've been in a lot of decision briefings, either for me or I'm briefing a senior leader. And that is not just the military, but in the business community as well. And a large number of times, the majority of the times, all that is briefed is, okay, here's all the information we know, and then they base decisions on that. And not as many times do they ask the questions, okay, what is it we don't know or haven't asked yet? Because that may, in fact, weigh which way we're going to go. A lot of the major, and what I use is some examples in the book, when I headed for 10 years engineering field services teams, and whenever there's major incidents or accidents, a lot of times we would do a root cause analysis where there's a methodical method to go ask the questions about what is it you don't know, what is not known, and sometimes that affects what caused the resulted in the action, the accident or the action that happened. So that's what I'm saying here is we need to make sure we go into this with, rather than just what we know, at least understanding what is it we don't know, because the assumptions we make may in fact be the wrong assumptions.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy to think, well, I've got all the information, let me make a decision off this. But as your advice to leaders is, again, kind of slow down and think about, okay, you've got all that information, but what is it you don't know? And I love this quote that you included.
I also address that later in the communication a lot of times a leader will walk into a meeting and the when he's opening up with his comments, he will basically give the solution. And if he's done that, then you're not asking what is it you don't know, and you're not being objective. You're just basically saying, how can we, proceed ahead based on what the leader has said, rather than really having an open mind and looking at what are the unknowns and what are the problems that we are really facing.
Yeah, oftentimes everybody's just trying to justify what they think the boss wants, rather than saying we know this and we don't know that. Where's that leave us? What's the right thing to do? You tell a great story about Irish Egan, who you were quoted as saying, "Tell me what you don't know," after a helo rappel training event. And I have to say, I want you to recount the story a little bit, because I think most of us out there think, generals are these perfect guys who never had just had perfect military careers. But every now and again, that's not true, is it?
No, and in fact, I probably would have never made it up the chain if people didn't recognize, some of my mistakes that I made and help me through them. I try to recount that. But in this particular incident, Irish Egan was a prior enlisted Vietnam veteran, and then also then became an officer. He had, if I recall right, he had at least 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star. I mean, but he wasn't. He was an older brother type of leader. He did spend a lot of time mentoring and counseling. And this was one of the early days. I had just joined the company, and his one of the things he said right off was, leaders have to lead by example. We step up and do things first to show our Marines how to do them, and so they're not afraid to do them. So we had planned a helo rappel, as rappelling from they were CH-46 helicopters, and we were going to do that. He assumed that coming out of the basic school, the officer training course, that I had been through that training and knew what I was supposed to do. I didn't know, and at the same time, we're talking several decades later. I don't know why I didn't tell him. Aside from, I guess I thought it wasn't going to be a hard exercise. So I had never done that helo rappel, and then I have to go up and, the first man from my platoon, I jump out of the helicopter doing a rappel. And, rather than doing it the correct way, when I started going down that rope fast, I started squeezing on the rope, which was burning my hand. So and I started going down faster. As people that have done that know, in a non-combat scenario, you have a Marine at the bottom on belay will pull the rope out to slow you down if you start going too fast. So that's what happened. But as soon as I hit the deck on the bottom, Irish Egan came up and he realized that I had no clue what I was doing. And he took me aside, and he said, "Hey, there was 2 major errors today. One," he said, "was on himself because he didn't ask me and confirm that I knew how to do that. And second was myself for not bringing it to him, telling him in advance that I had not had that that training before.
Well, there are two valuable lessons that the listeners should pick up on leadership there. One is the acknowledgement that Irish Egan said, hey, I put you into this situation. My mistake, I should have asked. And, your acknowledgement that I should have said something. And the third one I'd pull out of that story is he pulled you aside. He led by bringing you away from the other guys and saying this rather than making fun, berating, joking, all the other things that I think sometimes happens in the workplace, when the right way to lead in that situation, as you talk about in your book, Battlefield to Business, One Marine's Inner Voyage of Ethical Leadership, is you do that a little more privately in that situation so that there can be a growth opportunity.
Yes, and there was one other thing that Irish Egan did, and that weekend he took me out to there are these rappel towers. He took me out with some rope, and I think there was a couple other platoon commanders there with him to help, and he taught me how to do rappelling. So he made sure I knew what I was doing for the next time. But he didn't, as you said, he did not berate me, but he did teach me the importance of letting him know if I didn't understand something or if there was a skill that he did not have.
And while we're talking to Brigadier General Joseph Medina, retired from the United States Marine Corps, and we're on Veterans Radio, so we're telling a lot of the military stories. The audience for this book is not just military or just veterans. Talk to us a little bit about that broader audience that can pull leadership points out of here.
Yeah, one thing I found in my, over 10 years in the business community is a lot of the senior leaders in business, even those that have not had military experience, want to learn from the experienced military leader. So, they're, as a matter of fact, the foreword for the book was written by, the former CEO of the company I worked for, Granite Services, and he's gone on to be the CEO of some other large companies. And he looked for leadership. He looked for military leaders that could come in and demonstrate the servant leadership style, and ethical leadership. So the lessons here are trying to make sure the leaders, business leaders at the mid-level and going up, can learn from some of the lessons that I did learn and how they apply to the business scenario. So that's my intent, and there is a lot. I know I've had several business people contact me that appreciated some of the lessons that were contained in the book.
And this is for the sort of that mid-career person who is, hopefully moving up the ladder in a way they want, but also has a boss or a leader that they're reporting to. And I'll bring up one more chapter I want you to talk about a little bit, because I see this often, and it's chapter 7 on Don't Push an Untenable Solution. Talk about what you're trying to communicate there.
Yeah, that's chapter 7 is an important chapter, and it starts out with, one of the maxims I use. It's don't put lipstick on a pig. A pig with lipstick is still a pig. It's actually, I did not come up with that saying. There's several famous people that have actually used that saying, but the point is you actually need to paint the correct picture on what's going on, and make sure everybody understands. Don't use rose-colored glasses when you're looking at a situation. You need to be able to do an honest assessment. That's a problem. I've seen a lot in the military, but I also see it in the business world. A name that I have seen lately for it is called confirmation bias. People sometimes look out and they get confirmation they're looking for certain things to confirm what they already believe. Like situation reports. So sometimes they disregard the things that don't agree with what their feeling is, and they only report or things that are going the right way. This was one of the significant failings during the Vietnam War, where there were reports about how we were winning all these fights and all at the tactical level, but yet there was a bias against information that did not agree with that. And actually, this goes back centuries. I mean, this happened the first before there were shoguns. A guy by the name of Toyotomi Hideyoshi in Japan in the 16th century. He had united all of Japan right before the first shogunate, and he in order to give the lords below him something to do, he invaded Korea, and with the ultimate aim to eventually invade China. And they fought in Korea for I think it was 15 years or so. And at several times in there, he lost major battles, or his forces lost major battles, but he was getting the reports that they were winning. There's many reports that indicate that Hideyoshi thought he was winning in Korea, and he wasn't aware of the true situation on the ground, that he was not. So it ended up being a major defeat for all of Japan at the time, and the end result of that was that Japan closed in on itself, didn't let anybody in for centuries after that. But we see that all too often in situations like the Vietnam situation, and we have to ask ourselves, is that what we also saw in Afghanistan? We see that in the companies, they're getting reports, and the senior management is led to believe that everything is going one way, and then everything collapses underneath them.
Well, there are really important business principles, leadership principles in this book, Battlefield to Business: One Marine's Inner Voyage of Ethical Leadership. We're talking to its author, Brigadier General Joseph Medina, USMC retired. Joe, if people are interested in the book or interested in following some of the things you're doing, or maybe making contact, what's the best way for them to do that?
The book is available through Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or through the iUniverse website. They can go to any of those websites. They can buy it online, or they can go to the website, which is my website, which is the www.iuniverse.com. And then it's either available there, or they can communicate directly with me through that means, or through LinkedIn. And if they want to communicate personal questions or lessons or anything like that.
You really learn a lot when you talk to these guys who were generals, when you find out how they came up. You tend to think they all had easy roads, but they learned a lot of lessons along the way, and I think it's something we all can learn from. So let's hear a few words from our sponsors, and then we will go back and get some lessons from AARP on things that we should do to protect ourselves.
Military veterans touch everyone's life. I'm guessing right now you're thinking of a veteran, a close friend, relative. Maybe it's you. Even the toughest of us sometimes need help, but don't know where to turn for support. You don't need special training to help a veteran in your life. We can all help someone going through a difficult time. Learn how you can be there for veterans. Visit veteranscrisisline.net. veteranscrisisline.net. A message from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
If you have a VA claim denied by the Board of Veterans Appeals, contact Legal Help for Veterans at 1-800-693-4800. They're experts in handling cases before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Their number again, 1-800-693-4800.
Veteran businesses, you should be certified by the National Veteran Business Development Council at nvbdc.org or reach out to them at 1-888-CERTIFIED. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio today Troy Broussard. He is a senior advisor on AARP's Veterans and Military Families Initiative. He's also a U.S. Army veteran. He was involved in Desert Storm. We're going to talk a little bit about an issue that, kind of gets my juices going every time, and that's when the fraudsters out there, the scammers, the no good guys, take advantage of veterans and military personnel because they're kind of preying on us. So, Troy, I want to start with welcome you to Veterans Radio.
It's a pleasure and honor to come and speak to you and your listeners, and most importantly, to share this information that I think is critical to our veterans and military families all across the United States.
Well, now the listeners are going, wait a minute, I hear a little something in that man's voice. You're a good old boy from Louisiana. How'd you end up in the Army?
I'm a Louisiana native. From a very small town in Louisiana named Arnoldville, a good French name there. And I will tell you, it was a situation where I was looking for some funding to attend the local university in our city. And the Army was an opportunity for me to pay for college. And I will tell you, it has been one of the most great experiences of my life to serve this country. And some of the things that I've learned in the military, I still do today. My closet, my shoes, my clothes are lined up a certain way, and that came from spending my time in the military.
Well, you went to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette to pick up your bachelor's degree. And you got your master's of business administration, MBA, from Southeastern Louisiana University. You've had a distinguished business career as well. But we're going to talk about a survey and some work that AARP did to look at how veterans and military families get sometimes taken advantage of by those scammers and schemers.
Absolutely. What we did was there was some research that was done, this research, and what we found in this research that nearly 40% of veterans and military families were more likely to lose money to scams than the regular civilian population. And for us, this is a follow-up survey that was done in August of 2021. It was a follow-up survey from something that we did in 2017. And what we found is that, veterans and military families are significantly more likely to be targeted and lose money to con artists than our civilian population.
That was the shocking number to me, that 40% more likely to lose money to scam artists. Now, it's not because veteran and military families are, not as sophisticated. Maybe it's because they're more compassionate. Why do you think this is?
You know what? It's very. I think you've spoke of it very clearly. These scammers know that veterans and military families, they have a sense of duty, they have a sense of purpose. And once that their time served is done, they want to give back. So these scammers are very sophisticated. They'll use jargon, military jargon. And this military jargon, and what I mean by that, they'll use words like DD Form 214, which is our military records. And then they'll make comments like your MOS, which is your military occupational specialty. These are key terms that allow the defenses to go down and make us veterans think, oh, this is like my comrade, okay? And then at that point, that's when the scams start. That's when they're trying to get your credit card number. That is when they're trying to verify your Social Security number. Now your identity is stolen, and then secondly, here comes the credit card charges that just cause so much havoc with veterans and military families.
And that's one of the things that they're really good at doing is these scammers come in all different shapes and sizes and go after all sorts of different information, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. And there's a very specific, with this survey, very specific scams that target veterans. You know, these fake veteran charities or causes, again, really harping on the fact that we want to relate and make the veterans and their families think they're giving to veteran causes, which is a falsity. And then also there's, these VA home mortgage loan schemes. And then the worst one I think that's out there is these bogus free medical equipment for service-related injuries. So, for example, they're going to harp on that the veteran has been hurt serving our country, and then we're going to tell them, give me credit card information for a processing fee, and then we'll go ahead and send you this free equipment. Well, let me tell you what happens. The processing fee is an exorbitant amount, and there's no equipment coming to the veterans or their families.
And this isn't a small problem. One of the things I was really surprised at in reading the report from AARP and the Federal Trade Commission is for military retirees and veterans, they lost about $60 million in 2020. And when you pull in spouses and military consumers, that number jumps up to $122 million that are lost. That's a huge number.
If we could just take it in for a second and for our listeners to really hear what's going on here, to those veterans and their families that sacrifice for our country. Look at the totals, nearly, when you look at military and their families, $122 million in 2020, to fraud and identity theft, like you mentioned. This is something that, but here is the part that is really shocking. We know that our scams that are significantly underreported because sometimes there's a shame of reporting this. But we need to focus our attention on the scammers themselves and make sure that we bring those individuals to light and make sure that our veterans and their families know that they are victims here. They're the one that's being victimized. They're not the person that's the target. So let's go out there and get those scammers. And that's why we want to bring this to light at AARP, let our members and our veterans know that this is out there and the target, the bullseye is on them. So we want to make sure that they're aware of it.
Are there things which should be, when that guy's got you on the phone and he's working you,
Yes.
As you're listening to this story, are there sort of red flags, Troy Broussard, that we ought to be telling people, hey, if you hear this, red flags ought to go off for you?
Right. The number one and most largest that we found here, the number one thing that when we're looking at everything, the biggest one is, veterans never have to pay for their own service records. If told otherwise, it's a scam. So please, I would love to repeat that one more time. If veterans never have to pay for their own service records. Those are always free to veterans. If you're told otherwise, it's a scam. That's number one red flag. They're asking for your credit card information or to verify your Social Security number. Red flags. Please stay away from those types of calls. Have your script ready. I call it your no script. Have your no script ready. No, I'm not interested, and hang up the phone.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to be ready for them so that you kind of don't get sucked into answering one question, then the next question. And the other area that you guys at AARP found was this, and I had never heard of this, so I want other people to think about this. Yeah. This idea that you're going to get some sort of free medical equipment is going to be delivered to you. This bogus medical equipment isn't how VA works. Talk a little bit about this, how this scam gets conveyed out and how people can avoid it.
Right. I think that the big thing that we want to make sure that what we identified, with this scam, with this survey, is that, the VA will never ask for your personal information via email or by phone. They're not going to threaten you with claims, with jail or lawsuits if you don't provide this information to them. And again, I'll just go back to the point that they're going to utilize someone who has been hurt, and unbelievable that we would go through that type of information to really scam our veteran community. And to give bogus medical equipment or to even talk about that or to scam those scammers, we must bring that to light. And the best way to lower your risk, is to make sure that there's this robocall blocking service that you can utilize to make sure that you do not, that you can hang up and it can lessen those types of phone calls coming to you. And again, if you're getting suspicious emails, do not reply back to those at all.
Yeah, that's a really good point on the robocall or making sure you're on the do not call list, the federal government do not call list. And let me see, I think I saw somewhere how you get on that. Do you recall off the top of your head there? Yes. Troy, can you tell us how we get on it?
Yes. What you can do is you can go to the do not call, go to donotcall.gov. If you can go online to donotcall.gov. Now it'll stop. It only stops our telemarketers from calling the number, but it will cut down on the amount of calls that you get, making sure that you'll know that scams are easier to spot. Another important piece I would love to add to this would be make sure that you go to and put a security freeze, like on your credit reports with each of the three major bureaus. This will stop a criminal from opening up new accounts in your name. See, this is where it gets very, very tricky for our veterans and their families. Now I have your Social Security number. Now I can go open up new accounts in your name. And then this even causes more heartache, more troublesome for our veteran and their families. So placing that security freeze on your credit report is important. Signing up for the Do Not Call registry and making sure that you have a robocall blocking service set up. These are critical for it. And there's one other thing I would love to share as it relates to these veterans saying, hey, we have this wonderful veteran charity. Why don't you give us money to it? What you need to do is please go to www.charitynavigator.org, and you can put in the name of the charity to ensure that it's a legitimate and that the funds are going to a purpose and a cause that you are comfortable with. But again, have your no script ready, okay? And if they call in, say, I'm not interested, hang up, and then that will be able to help stop and prevent these scams as well.
We're talking to Troy Broussard, who is a senior advisor on AARP's Veterans and Military Families Initiative, about some repeat survey work they've done on scammers and fraudsters who target military families and veterans and military-friendly folks. One of the things that we've run into, and I want you to talk a little bit on it, sure, is the fake charity that sounds like a legitimate nonprofit, maybe that we've all heard about.
Absolutely. The scammers, again, what they have done up to this point, they have created a relationship with you. We're talking about things that are important, like the DD Form 214. What was your military occupational specialty in the military? Now I've gained your trust, okay, over the phone. And now I'm going to tell you about this fake charity. And I'm going to share with you, they're going to share with you all the unbelievable things this charity is doing and how you can support and how you can make a difference right now is to get your credit card out. And let's go ahead and put a donation to that group so you can impact families right now. And at that point, once that credit card number is received, no matter what number you agree to, whether it was $100 or $10 or $5, that person right there, that scammer has your credit card information and is running up your credit card. So again, when you start talking to someone calling about a charity that's veteran related, I would ask them, give me the information, please. and give me a number where I can call you back. And then at that point, you take that number and you take that information from that charity, put it into www.charitynavigator.org, and make sure it's legitimate before giving any of your information out to any suspicious individual over the phone.
And like I said, they'll sound like an outfit that you've heard of. I don't care if it's the DAV or PVA.
Yes.
At the state level, I know we had to involve the Attorney General here in our state because there was this outfit running around saying it was the American Paralyzed Veterans Association. And everybody thought it was the legitimate PVA, and it wasn't. It was a scam using a name that sounded pretty similar. And it was a way to suck people in because they had seen the advertisements or the stories about a regular service, a legitimate veteran service organization, and they thought they were helping out. So you got to listen carefully.
Or something that sounds very similar to the DAV or the VA. They'll use one letter off or something along those lines. And I just think, what I want to share with everyone is to please do your due diligence. Okay, be calm. Don't be in a heightened state of emotion. Be as calm as you can be, and make sure, especially if it's over the phone, you can hang up at any time. And by hanging up at any time, you're in total control. So I think sometimes the pressure comes from thinking that we do not have the control. When in all essence, we have all of the control when it comes to dealing with these scammers.
So you've talked about the new do not call list and how you get onto that, donotcall.gov. You've talked about charitynavigator.org to check out whether or not the name they give you is a legitimate name or a fake charity. And you also mentioned something that I don't know much about, and I'd like you to explain a little bit more, is the security freeze on credit reports with the three major credit bureaus. Can you elaborate on that for us, Troy?
Absolutely. And I will tell you some of the findings that we did find that 81% of veterans and military respondents to the survey, said that they did not have the security freezes on the credit report. So it is extremely easy to do. You go to the three major credit bureaus, you give them a phone call, and you tell them that you would want to have a security freeze. So I'll give you just a quick example of how great this security freeze is. I have done this, of course, on all three of the major credit bureaus, and it was time for me to purchase a vehicle for my daughter at the time. And I had honestly forgotten that I did this. Okay, so I get to the dealership to purchase the vehicle, whatever the case is. And the guy comes back after he ran, whatever needed to be run for me. And he says, I'm sorry, I'm unable to access your credit file. And the minute he told me that, I received a phone call. Okay. And the phone call stated, hello, Mr. Broussard. I just want to let you know that someone is at a dealership and that what they're trying to do, they're trying to access. Is that okay? Is that you? And I was sitting at the dealership and I said, yes, it is me. So this is a great way on how, again, it's all about us being in control. It's all about us making the right decision to make sure that we are not being scammed or things are being opened up in our name without us being fully aware of it. So I would definitely recommend that individuals go to annualcreditreport.com for more information on these credit freezes. They can, and you can do them for a period of time, whether it's 90 days or 120. But again, going to annualcreditreport.com for more information on these credit freezes will protect you in a safe way and protect you from these scammers.
Well, that's great information, Troy. And it doesn't impact. It's not like you're turning off your credit card at all, is it?
No, not at all. It's actually providing you protection to where you can provide them a telephone number. If they see anything that looks suspicious or out of the ordinary, they will call you, and then you will be able to verify it's you, of course, and then prevent any type of malicious activity from happening to your account.
Well, I think we all have to be a little more vigilant probably than we are, and it's very clear that veterans and military families, since they're 40% more likely to lose money to these scammers than the civilian population, really needs to turn up, if you will, its sensitivity on this. It's just the times we live in. These scammers are really sophisticated, and they keep changing their tactics, don't they?
The tactics will continue to change, but the three things that we can do to stay on the course and stay positive, I think number one is, when faced with this situation, ensure that you remain as calm as possible. I think that's number one. The second thing I would work on is make sure that you develop a no script. No, I am not interested in donating anything at this time. Thank you, and hang up. And lastly, I do want to share is that if you do hear of one of these potential scams, we would love for you. We have a group called the AARP Fraud Watch Network. It's a helpline that individuals can call. It's 1-877-908-3360. And this Fraud Watch Network helpline, we have trained volunteers that are there, and they will take the information that you provided about the particular scam or what scam or potential scam that almost happened to you, and you can take that information and give it to us, and then we will make sure to share that. So it's twofold now. You're preventing yourself from being scammed, and then you're helping other individuals across the entire country to be on the alert. And then what we would do is, with the Fraud Watch Network, we send out alerts that let people know of the common scams in their area as well as in the United States. So I would definitely tell folks do those three things, especially our AARP Fraud Watch Network, which is absolutely free to everyone.
Well, I believe everybody knows who AARP is. I would just tell them to go to aarp.org. That's the website where you can learn more. But as we come to the end here, though,
Sure.
Troy, can you talk a little bit more about what the Veterans and Military Families Initiative at AARP is set up to do, and kind of what the future looks like?
Absolutely. First I would ask all of our individuals all of our listeners to go to aarp.org/veterans. And, AARP back in 2017 started the AARP Veterans and Military Families Initiative. And the focus was to make sure that we reach our veterans. At AARP currently right now, we have nearly 5 million members. And of those members, they're either served our country or are part of a family, a veteran military family. And our focus is to provide free resources to our veterans, and that's free fraud resources. And what I mean by fraud is to protect them from being, in a fraud situation. Caregiving resources. We want to also make sure that we provide financial resilience through our Work and Jobs initiative. That if you want to re-career, you get a free opportunity to do that. You get some free resources. And the most important part is that we want to make sure that we assist veterans and their families to connect to their earned benefits. We want to work together with the VA and connect them to the Department of Defense to ensure that system is very easy and it works very seamless for them. So I'm very proud, as an Army Desert Storm veteran, to now work for an organization like AARP with currently 38 million members. And then now we're able to provide this type of initiative to serve an audience that I am very, very passionate about. And it just makes me proud to serve my country. We're always looking for our second mission. Well, I found mine, okay? My second mission now is to now help all of our veterans, military, and their families to just provide them resources that it's free for them, number one, and then that they can protect themselves. So I'm very excited about our initiative and the great things that we're doing going forward.
Well, I encourage folks to go to aarp.org/veterans. You'll find a great page with a lot of good information, curated information, and good, accurate, good information. I see a story right up here on VA Extends Time to Respond to Notification Letters. This is a current mailing problem that a lot of veterans are having. They get stuff late and they run out of time to respond. I see an article posted on important benefits to know. So real good information here, even for caregivers, which I think is so important. You really, if you're taking care of a veteran, at times it wears you down and wears you out, and this has information and stories about that as well. So a great site. I'm glad to point folks in that direction, Troy.
Awesome. We call it, I'll be very frank with you, we call it a one-stop shop, one-stop resource shop that provides our veterans, military, and their families a one-stop resource that lets them know about what's going on, what's important, what's current, and how to protect them from scams and frauds, our working jobs, our health and wellness, and of course, financial resources and caregiving, like you mentioned. So it's a great one-stop. It's free to go there. And then take a look there. And then also, as it relates to caregiving, there's also a military caregiver guide, a resource page, and the actual military caregiving guide that is specific for veterans and their military families because of their unique situations. Please go to that. There's so many things to talk about there. We could be here for another 2 hours, okay? Or maybe even 3, because I tend to talk a little bit too much. But I will stop right there, and I just really appreciate the time to come here today and just talk about something that is that I'm very passionate about, and I just want to make sure your listeners, your audience is protected. And for all of those who have served out there and before me and provided me an opportunity to serve this wonderful country, I want to thank you and say that I salute your service and the families that have supported them as well.
Well, we want to thank you, Troy Broussard, Senior Advisor on AARP's Veterans and Military Families Initiative, for telling us a little bit about what AARP is doing, warning us a little bit about the fraudsters, and it's clear as a proud Army veteran your passion for this area. So thanks for talking to Veteran Radio listeners today, Troy.
It was my pleasure, and I appreciate what you and your organization does to help reach veterans and their families and to provide them information to help them live their best lives. Thank you.
I think General Medina gave us some good advice, and certainly Troy Broussard from AARP gave us some good advice on protecting ourselves. I want to again thank sponsors, Eisenhower Center After the Impact Program, the VVA, Charles S. Kettles Chapter 310 in Ann Arbor, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423, American Legion Post 46, also in Ann Arbor. All this support is necessary to keep Veterans Radio, which is a production of Veterans Radio America, a 501c3, active and on the air. Dale and I couldn't do it without that support. And until next time, you are dismissed.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.